and welcome to an episode of Mission West Virginia. I'm your host, Rachel Kinder, and I'm the director of the Frameworks program at Mission West Virginia. And today my guest is Ashley Arthur, my coworker and manager of the Bridge program.
Yeah,
welcome,
thanks for
Ashley.
having me again.
Yeah, so Ashley has been a guest on this show before. It's been a year or two, I think.
Yeah, a couple years.
And we brought her back because the Bridge program is growing rapidly. It is our largest growing, fastest growing program right now, and they've had a lot of successes and a lot of changes over the last few years.
That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm happy you can be here to talk about some of the successes of the program and of our students.
Yeah, so part two. I think when I was on the first time, I had just stepped into the role and we were expanding into a few new counties, but just flashing forward to where we're at now, we are in 5 different counties. So I think last time I was here, it might have been 2 or 3.
Okay.
And so the program is in 5 different counties. That includes Putnam, Kanawha, Clay. We're in Wood County now, which was a big jump for us, and then Boone County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell our audience, someone who might not be familiar with the program, what is the goal of the Bridge program?
Yeah, so whenever the Bridge was first started, the goal was always to mentor youth in foster care. And so we've just held up to that standard since then, but built upon it. So every mentor that we have, they are in a public high school setting, about 10 high schools, and they get a caseload of students that are either in foster care, kinship care, or McKinney-Vento, which is a new aspect of what we've added, if we want to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But all the kids on the caseload are there to make sure they're attending high school, they're going to graduate on time, and that they have a post-secondary plan ready to go so that they can continue to be successful after high school.
And they can join the Bridge as early as 9th grade, right?
Yeah, so actually something that we started implementing a couple of years ago is we just realized how important it is to go into a new environment and to feel as comfortable as you can ahead of time. So it's a big transition from middle school to high school. And so all of our mentors will connect with the feeder middle schools at the end of the school year, and they get referrals for students that are going to be incoming freshmen.
Okay, I did not know
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
that's
so
smart.
They get to meet some of the kids that are going to be freshmen at their schools, and so on the first day of school, some of those brand new freshmen that are in foster care, kinship care, will already know their mentor and recognize them before the school year even starts. So yeah, as early as 9th grade and then all the way through, hopefully, to their senior year.
So I think everyone always asks, how do children get referred to the Bridge program?
Yes, that is a commonly asked question. So always we've had referrals from counselors. School counselors give the bulk of our referrals, I would say. They work with the kids a lot and they know their living circumstances. They know what they're struggling in their classes. And we've also gotten a lot of referrals from teachers in the school, secretaries. They know who's coming in, who's signing them out. But as the program has progressed over the last couple of years, we've gotten more and more referrals from students. So
interesting.
Yeah, it'll be students that are already in the program and they have some friends that have been coming in with them in lunch to say hi, or they're passing through and they get to know the mentor, and so they'll say, hey, could my friend be in the program too? So that's been a really neat and unexpected thing to see.
It's a pretty solid recommendation coming from another teen.
I know, it's trusted, tried and true.
So what is a typical caseload for a mentor?
Yeah, so we try to balance it out between all the grades. So I would say each mentor, if you're more seasoned, you might be able to handle a caseload of up to 35 students, but we like to keep it between 30 and 35, somewhere in that range. And we try to even it out where you have about the same number of students 9th through 12th grade, so that you're not overwhelmed with one grade over the other.
I hear seniors are really time intensive.
Yeah, and that's a good time to come on the show too, as you know, our seniors are getting ready to graduate. So yeah, they have all those students 9th through 12th grade that they focus on throughout the year. But right now, what their caseload is really looking like is last minute details for our seniors. We've been doing a lot of fun things, but then also this last semester of their school year, we've done some field trips and things like that. So we're really doing more than ever before in this new phase of growth to create unique opportunities for our kids that are going to be graduating this month. So,
which is really exciting.
I know.
So I want to hear more about the field trips, but first, let's give our audience kind of an overview of what a mentor does with the different youth on their caseloads.
Okay, yeah. So it can really range depending on what the needs are of each student. So you may have some kids that have a 4.0 GPA. They're doing really well academically, but they need some assistance as far as understanding how to fill out a FAFSA application, how to apply for different scholarships, applying to jobs. And so we focus with them on post-secondary planning more than anything else. And then you may have students that come to you on the caseload and they've moved into a brand new placement. They might not necessarily be comfortable at the new school. They were used to another one, and they're coming to you, with poor attendance. Maybe they've had some detention, some, behavioral issues, and they're behind in their classes. So what it looks like for a student like that on the other end of the scale is working with them consistently, interacting with teachers, interacting with other supports in the school system, and not just that, but making sure we are constantly in communication with their caregivers. A lot of times we're able to take time and answer questions for foster parents, grandparents, whomever they're living with that they may not have known before. So we're really just, that mentor and academic liaison to make sure that a student has support, not just from us, but from everyone in their circle, so that we can all come together and get that student on a path to where we can do the fun stuff and look ahead towards their life after high school. So it can be different, to answer your question. It can be different, and every single student is unique. And so we adjust the amount of times we're meeting with students and what we're working on with them, depending on what it is that they need at the time that they come to us.
So tell us, why would a child in foster care be more likely to be behind compared to their peers academically?
Yeah, so, a big part of my job managing the program is making sure that we have up-to-date data and statistics and things like that, so that we can take our evidence-based program and show how it's, kind of measuring up to the struggles that kids in foster care are facing. And one of the most staggering statistics I think that people are surprised to hear is that each move for a youth in foster care, so each time they're placed in a different home or they move to a new school, that equates to about 6 months of learning loss.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, so even if you have a student coming from foster care that they may have been doing well academically, if they're moved into a new situation, sometimes their credits don't transfer over.
Good point.
Yeah, sometimes, one school didn't send the transcripts, or it might take a little bit longer to get their school history if they're coming from another state or another county. And that can all be really discouraging. So I think not just to the students, but to their parents as well who are caring for them, it can be discouraging to feel like your student's trying to acclimate to this new place and they're not feeling very motivated. So it can be tough. There are those barriers to having different placements and moving, and just it's hard to adjust as an individual, but then you also have to adjust to a new academic setting. So we see that a lot. But I do want to mention a good thing about the expansion of the program is that we've had it happen several times this year where, because we're in more schools, we've been able to say, this student's being placed from one school to another.
Okay.
And we have had a mentor in both schools. So a student's not just leaving with no support at their new school, but we've been able to do a handoff to where the first day that they're in their new school, they continue on with a bridge mentor that's already there.
That's great, because I remember when the program was new, being a little skeptical of how many kids we were going to see finish the program, just
Right.
because I know how many kids move schools. So we talked about criteria. You can be in foster care, you can be in kinship care, which social workers and those in our field tend to use the term kinship care just to mean in relative care or care of someone who might not be a legal or blood relative, but someone who is in the child's network. And then third, you said McKinney-Vento. People
Right.
may not know what that means.
Yeah, so that has been a newer category of youth that we have been really excited about being able to work with and learn more about the logistics of what that means, because it's so prevalent in our state. But it's like you said, you may not have heard the term before. That's basically the term that we use and the school system use to identify youth that are legally homeless. And that,
Because McKinney-Vento is a piece of law, right?
Right,
That
yeah.
speaks to homeless youth, and that's
Yeah.
why we tend to just call it a McKinney-Vento youth.
Right. And so, yeah, to us, it's a term that we use frequently. But when people hear, legally homeless, it's not always what you may picture.
It's not a kid living in a homeless shelter with their parents.
It could
I mean,
be.
it could be, but it's not always.
Right, not always. So, yeah, there's a lot of different situations. Sometimes it's students that are with their families and they're doubled up in a home. So two families doubled up to try and make sure that they can get by. It can be other circumstances where youth are sort of couch surfing from one home to another. And so we've learned a lot. We are not the experts on that topic, but we want to try and be as literate as we can, because those situations are pretty frequent, is what we're finding in our high schools. And so we've been working with the student support services at the state to educate us on that topic. And so we've been funded by them so that we can serve those students and we can step in to provide things that are keeping them from succeeding in school.
And I'm assuming that you were able to add that because those youth have similar challenges to the populations we were already serving.
Yeah, and what we've learned too is that a student may come to us identified as, kinship, informal kinship, fictive kin, so they're not, technically in foster care. And then for whatever their circumstances are, maybe something happens over the summer, and when they come back to us, they could then be considered a McKinney-Vento student.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we were learning, is that, their status could change depending on their living circumstances, and we wanted to be able to serve those students fully. And so part of that is understanding, what it means and what they're entitled to, so that we can advocate and collaborate with other groups and services to get them everything that they need to be able to be successful.
Okay, that's a good explanation. So one of the things I said we'll talk about in a minute was those field trips.
Yeah.
So our mentors see the kids at least once a week and do all of the regular work with them, but then we have other things that take place outside of the schools that are kind of a bonus, but also really necessary and really helpful to move these kids forward, right?
Yeah.
So, the field trip I heard the most about was Marshall. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I get really excited to talk about the field trips that we've been able to do. And our biggest field trip to date is in February. We were able to take 30 of our students, all in the Bridge program, to Marshall University. And of course, Marshall, they were our choice because we've done a lot with them. And, President Smith has some initiatives, and the Miss Marshall, Samani Weaver, she ran a platform when she was running for Miss Marshall to assist students in foster care.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, so they became a partnership to us, reaching out to Mission West Virginia to learn about what we're doing and how we can collaborate to help students that are transitioning out of foster care into college. So we started chatting, and we realized that based on some things they have going on at Marshall and some of the interests of our kids in the Bridge program, that we could create a specialized, unique field trip opportunity just for the kids in the Bridge program. So of course Marshall does, green and white days, things like that, which is when, schools will take field trips to the campus, and they get a great opportunity to see what's there and to see different opportunities and things like that. But it's a little bit different with our kids just because they may fill out the FAFSA differently, right? So
Right.
they may not be putting in their parents' tax information. They may be registering on the FAFSA as an independent. And so that's not widespread information that they typically get on a normal field trip. So we took all these things, put them in our minds, and planned a field trip. Michelle Biggs, who is another contact at Marshall, does a lot of the Marshall U planning with the students in high school that are taking courses before going to college. So she has a lot of expertise on that. So Michelle and Samani, we put together a full agenda, and the kids got to start by learning about the programming and the different things that they have at place that they could go into at Marshall. What are the different majors, things like that. And so they learned about that, and then we did a bunch of giveaways, and all the kids got Marshall gear, so that was sort of unique. They got some things that were special just to that field trip. And then they did campus tours. They also got to go and see a dorm room, what that would look like set up in the freshman halls. Marshall worked with us, and we were able to pay for lunch for all the students to have while they were on campus. And then one of the best parts of the field trip is that Michelle Biggs coordinated a special mini lecture. So I don't think that is a typical part of a field trip, but the kids got to go and have a 30-minute session with Professor Dan Hollis, who gave them a taste of what it would look like to sit in a college classroom, to be able to have discussion, to ask questions, to think outside the box. And so even though they were in class, the students all reported for the most part that was their favorite part of the day.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So big kudos to Professor Hollis. And then another part that was really neat is that Marshall has trio services. And
What is
so,
that?
yeah, so I'm learning more about that every day as we have kids going to Marshall, but they provide extra support for students that would be in the same population as the kids that we serve.
Okay.
And so, we would have to get referrals for the kids to go into the trio program, and from there, they would kind of have people looking out for them in college. So they got a presentation from the trio program. And so all in all, it was just a full day where the kids got to have an experience that was unique to the Bridge program. We are in 4 high schools in Kanawha County, so 30 of those kids all came together, and we had several kids that ended up applying to go to school at Marshall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think 5 kids afterwards. So they're preparing for that now, and we're still in touch with the folks there, and they're getting ready to move in after the summer. So
That's a big achievement. And I'm guessing some of these kids had never been on a college campus before. Is that accurate?
yeah, so most of the kids, the vast majority, they're first generation college students. So we really tried to plan the field trip around them, and then also thinking about information that we could get to them that would help their guardians. Because sometimes if you haven't been to college yourself, it's hard to know,
Right.
when do I need to apply for this? Oh, you have to do the FAFSA every single year. And even if you have been to college, it's a lot.
changes.
It's a lot to
Yeah.
help a student to make sure they're on track. So we tried to do as much as we could just to, let's explain this to someone that's never been to college before, someone that's not familiar with, what it might look like, and just setting them up to where I think it went from being an intimidating experience to one that's a little bit more approachable. They got to see what it was like, and something that was really neat is that some of the kids, we were on the field trip, and they ran into freshmen at Marshall that had gone to their school the year
Oh,
prior.
nice.
So they were like, oh, it just made them feel at home, and they got to hear about positive experiences from kids that they used to go to high school with. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I also heard that our director decided to throw in a giant Starbucks order in the middle of the field trip.
Yeah, so our director Kelly went with us, and she added some fun to the day, and got the kids all caffeinated. We had to make sure some of the kids, saw the Starbucks and it was over for them. So in the student center, they were very accommodating to us, and we put together, I think between the chaperones and the kids, 40 drinks from Starbucks. So
I saw a picture of a wagon full of Starbucks.
Yeah, we were pulling that around. So that was a fun part of it. And that's just, another thing, like, I think, you have opportunities, and if we can make something happen, I think Kelly reminded me that day that we should do it. Even we have a full packed schedule, but if we can do something small to, make these kids happy, or say, hey, we're going to treat you to this, because, we're able to do that.
Who doesn't want an extra or a surprise treat in their day?
Yes. So, and again, the student center, they made that happen seamlessly. Just every experience, the whole day, just everyone we collaborated with, from the dining hall to the tours and the student workers that helped, everyone there wanted it to be a great experience, and that's what it was. We'll definitely be doing that again, and hope to do some more field trips with other colleges and universities, now that we have an idea of what that would look like after having done the one at Marshall.
Yeah, you have a really good model to work with.
Yeah, for sure.
I've heard you also throw in some fun trips to the DMV.
Yeah, and that's
Not
always
everyone's idea of a fun trip.
I know. So that's always, we kind of laugh about that because, for most adults, you are like, oh, I have to go to the DMV. Right. But something that we realized in working with these kids and trying to make it possible for them to have plans after high school is that, transportation is a huge issue. Mm-hmm. We're in Kanawha County, and they have the KRT bus passes, and we've supplied those at times. But in some of our more rural areas, like Boone County, and really just most of the areas in West Virginia, there's not public transportation. So we arranged a trip during last school year for Clay County to go to the local DMV. So the DMV worked with us there, and ahead of time we were able to work with guardians and students to get purchases of copies of birth certificates as a form of ID.
Okay.
And they loaded up a bus full of kids to the DMV. We let them know ahead of time, and they worked beautifully with our mentors at Clay County and the counselors and the staff that went with us at Clay County High School. And those kids got to go, and they could take their learner's exams. They could get a formal ID, even if it wasn't a driver's license. Right. The form of ID would help them to apply to jobs. And really, those kids just left with an experience where they didn't have to worry about that anymore. So that was huge for us. And that's really what we try to do. We talk about post-secondary planning. And a lot of our kids, want to go to college, and that's the best choice for them. But we also work with technical schools. We work with employers, and just any entity that we can to make it possible for our kids to succeed after high school, whatever that may look like. So, we just look and see what the need is, and that's exactly what we try to make happen. So
it's just as much a success that a student graduates high school and goes on to college, or graduates high school and starts a new job right after high school, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Just to highlight, what comes to mind for me is we're in one technical center with the Bridge program, and so we're at Putnam Career and Technical Center in Eleanor.
And they've been on the show before.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a past episode with
Excellent.
them. Yep.
Yeah, go check that one out. But, so we work with them a lot. And most of the students there, they're in the trades. And so they may not be going to college, but they are extremely driven, and they have a plan for their future. So they've collaborated with what's called the 4T program at Toyota. There's the Toyota plant in Buffalo and Putnam County, and there's opportunities there where Toyota has worked with the Technical Center, and some of our kids are getting jobs there right out of high school, making a really nice salary. So yeah, it's just as much of an accomplishment for our students to go to a 4-year college or go straight into the workforce, whatever it may be. If they have a plan and they have something to look forward to, is a huge success for us.
And we're really trying to promote the program. I think sometimes people just see it as education-based, but
Right.
we're putting kids into the workforce, whether it's right after high school or whether they're going to college first. Like, we're looking at more West Virginians entering the workforce because of the bridge,
Yeah.
which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's one of the best things that that we get to be a part of, and I think that a lot of times people hear, where we work, and you can relate to this, and say that must be so hard, it has to be so difficult, and it can be. There's these kids go through things that are tough, but what I really like to drive home about the work that we do, especially in the Bridge program, is that we get to see kids move past the difficult things that they've been through, and we get to see them succeed. And they're in the workforce, they're productive members of, the community, and it's just the best part of what we do.
And I think people would be really shocked at some of the things that we know kids are going through. And it's very easy to look at high schoolers who are not achieving or who, may be struggling to graduate. But I think people really have no concept of what it's like to be a teenager now, and some of the things that our kids have gone through.
Yeah. I think there's that idea that, whoever is the youngest generation at the time, we like to say, oh, this generation, we kind of put labels on them, and that's just kind of how it goes. Each generation, we kind of say they don't like to work, or they aren't as driven, and that might be true for any individual. But what I have found in working in this position is that this year we have more than 300 students in the Bridge program, and although they all have trials and things that they've faced beyond, some things that, we've even experienced in our lives,
Right.
These kids are driven, they're motivated, they're ready to work, they're ready to achieve. They just need someone that's going to believe in them and that's going to be consistent in their lives and remove any obstacles in their way so that they can move forward and they can be successful. And when we give them that opportunity, they rise to the occasion. So they really, I have a lot of hope for, the kids that we work with, and, they're doing great things. So they're going to continue to.
Of a lot of our programming, we hear really some of the biggest challenges, but also some of the biggest successes, and success stories every week. Like, we hear amazing things about the kids in the Bridge program on a regular weekly basis, which is pretty amazing. We have about a minute left. Is there anything you would like to add that's really just your favorite part of the job?
I will say I have to brag on, one of the biggest things for me is at our Marshall field trip. I had a boy from last year at Hurricane High School. He graduated, and he's a freshman at Marshall this year. So he was there to speak to the kids that are now in the Bridge, and he's just so happy his freshman year. And so I think we're starting to see kids that have graduated the program wanting to reach out to the kids that are in it, and it's just a beautiful thing to have it come full circle like that. So that's one of my favorite things.
And the longer the program lasts, the more we're going to see that. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, so we'll come back for a part 3 in a couple years.
I'm sure we will. This has been another episode of Mission West Virginia, and we hope to see you next month.